answer the question, how to avoid overusing your hip flexors in boat pose. So boat pose is thought to be an abdominal pose to strengthen the abs and strengthen the core. It also can be a pose that can be quite strenuous on the low back, and if done properly, can be a great pose to strengthen your hip flexors if indeed that is necessary. So usually boat pose is done sitting on the sit bones, so on the bones that your hamstrings attach to. And what we want to be careful of is the tendency to either round in the back too much, which will create strain in the low back and create strain maybe if you have a herniated disc or any back pain, or vice versa, pulling the chest forward too much and causing too much contraction in the low back, which will cause cramping in the hip flexors. So what I recommend is coming to a more neutral position, so you're not cat in the low back, but you're not cow in the low back, you're a little bit in between, so just right. Then what I recommend is really pulling the belly button in, not to the point that you can't breathe anymore, but to a point that you can still breathe deeply into the belly. So about a 50 to 60% contraction in the abdomen. And then what I would start with is also performing this in the mirror. So lifting one leg up first and see what the tendency to happen both in the low back and in the front of the hip. So usually what will happen is the hip flexors will come on board and start to help us and cramp because they're already in a shortened position. So to avoid that is when you're straightening your leg to press your thigh into your hand to engage your hamstring as you start to straighten your leg. What this will do is cause a co-contraction in your thigh and keep the front of your hip from over-engaging. So I would start with one leg at a time, straightening each leg one at a time, really reaching and pressing the back of your thigh into your hand, keeping your spine neutral, belly button pulling in. Then you can work with lifting one leg and then the other leg, really pressing your thighs into your hands to keep the hip open in the front, so you're not over contracting, which will cause a pinching in the front of the hip. So press the thighs into your hands, engage the hamstrings, and then even work with straightening one leg from this position. Reaching your leg long, pressing your thigh into your hands, and try it on the other side. Keep breathing calmly, deeply, then maybe eventually trying both legs at the same time, keeping your thighs pressing into your hands. The final pose is arms reaching up. So imagine you had a set of hands behind your thighs and reach your arms up. Breathe. Keep your thighs pressing back even as you start to bend your knees. Bring your feet back to the ground and check in and make sure that felt okay on your low back. Make sure that feels okay on the front of your hips. So the hip flexors are being used in boat pose. It is necessary to use them, but to counterbalance their over-engaging is to use the hamstrings and also keep the back in a more neutral position. Thank you.